What's going on, guys? It's Kevin from Full Send Diesel. Today we are in the shop. This is where all the magic happens. It's nothing fancy, but we make all of our braided lines, products, and all that stuff here, and fixing up the Supermoto. But anyway, we got some goodies here. This is going to be a new product release video if this works. I designed these, and basically what it is a transmission pan, but it's also a heat exchanger. I don't have time to make a great edited video and make it look all cool, but the purpose of this video is informational. It's going to tell you what this does, how it works, and then we're going to go back there and put it on the single cap FSD one that we were giving away, and we're going to test it. So this video, if it gets posted, that means it worked. If it doesn't get posted, that means it probably didn't work, and you guys will never see this. I honestly don't know. This is a theory that I had in my mind, and a design, so we're gonna try it. So the main issue these days is the heat exchangers on your Cummins. They basically, coolant runs through one side, transmission fluid runs through the other. Theoretically, it should cool it. It doesn't do that much cooling. So a lot of guys bypass it, but the problem is if you live where it's cold, your transmission fluid doesn't really get up to temperature at all because it doesn't have that coolant helping it. So usually if it's like 30 degrees, you wait for the truck to warm up, and say you hit 180, 185, whatever, and you start driving, your transmission fluid might still be at like 30 degrees, 45, 50, whatever. It's still very cold. It's not detrimental. If you drive it one time like this, it's not gonna destroy your transmission, but it does, the fluid breaks down faster, not being at the correct operating temperature. It's kind of like you driving your engine when it's cold. It's going to be all right, you know, if you don't let it warm up, but eventually long term you will probably see an engine failure, or in this case a transmission failure, sooner. So basically we made this in terms of the other one fails and it mixes your coolant and your transmission fluid together, and then can destroy your transmission if you don't catch it soon enough. Realistically, you'll be driving and you'll probably notice your trans will start to slip, or you'll have a bunch of smoke coming out from under your hood, and you'll pop the hood and your coolant will be overflowing with a strawberry looking liquid, which is your transmission fluid and your coolant mixed together. So it's just not a good time. It really can destroy your transmission. So if you live where it's cold, I bypass it. I like to bypass it. But if you live where it's cold, I have a lot of customers in Canada, all over where it's cold. I live where it's cold. It's 25 degrees today. So well, it's not that cold. Some of you guys are in like negative 20. But anyway, if you live where it's cold and you're not living in sunny Florida all year round, and you want to drive your truck in the wintertime, this will help warm your transmission fluid, get it up to temp, and maintain consistent temperatures while you're driving. One thing I did notice a couple years ago, before Full Send Diesel was a thing, I had two Durrell transmission coolers mounted in the bed with the heat exchanger bypassed. All was well. I lived in North Carolina. But when I would make a trip up here, actually to New Jersey, we're in Pennsylvania, but it was like 2 o'clock in the morning. I went to a gas station at like Richmond, Virginia on the way up here, and I saw someone, and being, you know, a little punk, I decided to smash on it leaving the gas station at like 2 o'clock in the morning, and the trans was just like shifting all messed up, and I was like, what the heck is going on? I looked at my trans temp gauge, and it was only at 100 degrees after it's probably about 5-6 hours of driving. It's because you're getting all that cooling, and even with the fans off, just the cold air with the heat exchanger bypass, it can't maintain the temperature. So if you have an automatic transmission, the fluid is going to be at different viscosities when it's colder or warmer, hence why we have operating temperatures. So it can affect your shifting a lot. I think 68 RFEs really have this issue quite often, but there's a lot of things that can go into it. The main point is get rid of the factory one. If you live where it's cold, if this works, this won't fail. So it won't mix your transmission fluid and your coolant together and wipe out your transmission. But it'll help your transmission fluid get up to the right operating temperature, and improve the longevity of your transmission and your transmission fluid, obviously, as if it's not up to the right temperature, it'll break down sooner. It won't lubricate as properly as it should. And you just decrease the life of your transmission on a whole. I'm not saying if you drive it once, your trans is done. That's far from it. But consistent temperatures will help your transmission shift properly, as opposed to if it's cold, it's not going to want to shift properly because the fluid is at different viscosities, and yeah, again, it's just a longevity type thing. And if you want your stuff to last, I like the heat exchangers, but the problem is the factory ones fail. So that's why we have this. I'm done talking. I'm gonna show you guys what this is, how it works, and then we're going to go start the truck, let it run in park for pretty much till the coolant temp gets to operating temperature. And we're gonna time it and record the temperatures of the transmission and the coolant temp as they rise as it runs. And then we're going to install this and do the same thing and see what kind of stuff this does. And then we're gonna go out and drive it and take more data. So without further ado, it's a transmission pan. The whole bottom of it is billet. It has a transmission temperature sensor here, nice big drain plug there. And if you notice, there's a whole bunch of bolts all around the side that are recessed in here nice and flat. That is to take this off, which I will do here. Only got one hand. So we pull this off. We have a nice O-ring seal around there. This is the bottom plate. So I will explain how this is gonna work. So this will obviously bolt up and then you'll fill your transmission fluid. I'll show you the inside. It's got grooves down there, right? And then that's your drain plug. So coolant will run through here and here, and basically it'll circulate through the bottom of this pan and then out. So it will kind of act as a heat exchanger. It's the main goal of this really is to warm the fluid in cold temps. If you get your transmission fluid hot enough, it could take some of the heat away from the transmission fluid and then bring it back in the coolant system, and it'll get cooled off through the radiator, but it'll basically exchange the heat. That's how the heat exchangers work to begin with. But this, I had this in mind mainly to help warm transmission fluid, but we're gonna take it out and we're gonna drive it and we're gonna see how it does. This is more like a winter thing if you live where it's cold and you wanna drive the truck still. Now, if you live where it's cold and then it gets hot in the summer, you could always just take these off, take the two lines off that go to here, and then jump them back together. It would take like one fitting, something like that. I'm not sure how we're gonna route the coolant lines yet. We're gonna go look at the truck when we go to install this, and we're gonna get it installed on there, and then I'm gonna figure out the proper coolant line setup for each truck, and if this works, and then we're gonna get it up on the site. But I have a really good feeling about this. I think it's gonna work really well. So you'll have your coolant running through here. Obviously your engine's gonna warm up faster than your transmission fluid when you're not moving. So this theoretically should just heat the fluid in the pan. So then when you go to leave, after your truck's been warming up for 15 minutes and say you're at operating temperature, your transmission's already a lot warmer than it was. I'm not expecting it to be at full operating temperature, but it will be much, much warmer than it would be as opposed to not having this and not having a regular heat exchanger. So coolant's running through the bottom. That's that. Your transmission fluid is on the other side. And then we have the top plate here. That'll go back on. And bolts will go around. And basically the idea of this is this down here, it's on the other side of this. So this is all billet. This was cut from a solid piece of aluminum and then all machined out. So there's no thin areas that will ever break. And there's also no welded seams that will ever be able to leak and cause cross-contamination. So this is welded here. So if it ever did leak, this would be leaking coolant. If like say that came out, it would leak coolant out. Not that it's going to, it won't. These welds aren't gonna crack and cause that, but it's the whole cross-contamination issue with the factory heat exchangers is they internally fail and leak, and then you mix your stuff together and it destroys your transmission, which they can get very expensive. So the whole point of this is a heat exchanger that will not fail. So you won't have to worry about cross-contamination issues with this. And it's a deep pan, holds more fluid. So there's a lot of great aspects to this. I'm really excited to hop on in the back there. I left it in the back specifically because this side's heated and I want to basically reenact an average day going and starting it up. It's about 18, 25 degrees out here. So that's about how cold it'll be back there. I mean, there won't be any wind chill, but it'll still be cold. It's definitely cold. The truck's been sitting for a week. I haven't driven it since last weekend. So I want to give the best results. So we're going to record temperature and then all that good stuff. And we're going to go from there. Hopefully this works. And if it does, you guys will see this video up and these will be available for purchase because they're pretty badass. So I'm going to hop in the back here, get the truck started and record trans temp, coolant temp, outside temp. and then time as well. And then we're gonna make a graph, show you basically with the heat exchanger bypassed, with a transmission cooler in the bed, no fan on, with the truck running, and we're gonna put on high idle. And we're gonna see basically how long it takes the truck to get up to operating temperature, and then what temperature the transmission fluid's at after the truck gets up to operating temperature. And then we're gonna put this on, hook up coolant lines, and then we're gonna record the same thing. And I have a feeling this is probably gonna do a lot better. And then after that, then we're probably gonna go and drive with this pan and see how it reacts. My goal is basically, if you have this, you're gonna be warming the transmission fluid down here. So you could be like, oh, well, if it's summertime or if it's warm out, or once the trans is up to temperature, coolant going through here could be 90 or 190, 200 degrees. Then that's gonna heat my transmission fluid up and it's gonna keep it at 200 degrees. So I'm not sure how that's gonna work. I'm not sure if the coolant is gonna have that much of an effect to, if you have 190 degree coolant circulating through here, if that is going to heat up the transmission temps more, or if the coolant's gonna go through and take some temperature away from the transmission and keep you maybe with the transmission cooler, maybe it'll average out around 170, 180 degrees, which would be awesome. And then if you have a proper... All right, guys, we're gonna get her started up here. See what kind of temperature she's gonna run for us. Oh, it's cold. Get the time started here. Wait for this thing to go. Oh, what temps we're at. Fan is off. Alright, so coolant temps at 50 degrees, trans temps at 36 degrees, so I'll mark that down in the notes, and then we'll report back here and get you guys some data. Alright guys, we just hit the temps here. We got some data all the way from the outside temp, 26 degrees, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35 minutes. After 35 minutes, we had 181 degrees. Well, now it's like 36 minutes, but 37. It was 180 and then 86 degrees on the trans temp after 35 minutes. Most of you guys, I'm guessing, are gonna let them warm up for probably around 20 minutes. I honestly, that's what I let myself warm up to, about 20 minutes, 25 minutes. So you're looking at about 150 to 170 degrees coolant temp. Trans temp, you're looking at about 75. So your temp is not near up to the proper temperature. It's not horrible. It could be much worse. It could be like when it started out and it was like 35 degrees. It's definitely a lot warmer, but another issue you're gonna see is once you're driving down the road, it doesn't have to be an aux cooler. It can be a front mounted cooler, stock cooler. Regardless, there's going to be air going through it that's cold, so you're going to be cooling your transmission. So on long drives, when you're not getting on it, and you're not towing, you're not building heat, your temps will drop, just like the story I told you guys about the my old truck there, and it was 100 degrees after about 6 hours of driving, and it was shifted all messed up. That's because the fluid temp was not up to the proper temperature, and it was not lubricating everything inside the transmission as it should. So we're going to let this cool off, and I'm going to come back tomorrow after this is cool. Looks like the weather's going to be about the same, and we're going to put the other pan on, run the coolant lines. We're going to do the same exact test, and we're going to record the results and see how she does. And then after that, we're going to go and drive it with the new pan. So I'll see you guys tomorrow. What's going on, guys? Kevin from Full Send Diesel here. It is now Sunday. Last night I tried to hook the pan up and run it and get some results because I was very excited, and it didn't work. It didn't work at all. The coolant temp or the trans temp stayed the same, basically as the other test I did. So I was like, So this morning I came in early, and the two coolant spots that I tapped into last night ended up not working. It would fill the bottom of the pan with coolant, but it wouldn't circulate like I wanted it to. So this morning I came in, it's cold, very cold, and I swapped the coolant lines around to a new spot, and I found out where we can tap coolant from, and it'll still circulate without the thermostat open. So I did that, just ran the test, and it worked flawlessly. My goal, I think I said last night, was I wanted 150 degrees. That would be like perfect world, like awesome. And it ended up, after 35 minutes, we got the truck's engine temp to, I think it was 179, and the transmission temp got to 136 degrees. So that was a lot of degrees above where we were before. Wasn't quite 150, but it's definitely a huge step. And that was just, as soon as it hit 180, I shut it off. So it definitely worked, in my opinion. My goal was 150. It got to 136. It's a little colder today, but I don't think that matters too much. We're inside the shop, so there's no wind chill or anything. But today it's about 25 degrees. And yeah, so we got those results. I have graphs made of them. It worked very well again. And basically what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go out and drive it and see if, after a while of driving, if the coolant temp or the trans temp will rise up to where the coolant temp is. And then I don't want it to overheat. So I do have a 180 degree thermostat in this. So it shouldn't ever really go over 180, but I'm kind of hoping that it'll stay a little bit below the coolant temp. And then in the summertime, or if you start beating on it, which I'm going to do, I want to see if the pan is going to actually, it'll come to a point where if the transmission fluid gets hot enough, it'll actually exchange. That's the point of the heat exchanger, and it will actually take some of the heat from the transmission fluid and disperse it back into the coolant system and then cool it through the radiator. So the main goal of it's to heat it up, but it also has that plus side of exchanging the heat and removing the heat from the transmission. And then if that's not enough, we'll just go in here, we'll flick this switch, and then that will turn our big fan on, and then that will cool everything. So I'm gonna go out, I'm gonna leave the fan off, and I'm gonna drive it really easy. I'm gonna take it out probably on the highway, get it in overdrive, locked up, and I'm just gonna cruise, and I'm gonna drive really easy, and I'm gonna see basically what everything does, what the trans temp does, if the trans temp does slowly rise up to where the coolant is, or if the trans temp stays. Because at the end of this test, the last 10 minutes, the transmission temp only went up a couple degrees. So in the beginning, when the coolant temp was going up, the trans temp was following, it was going a lot. But then towards the end, like the last 10 minutes, you'll see on the chart that I'm gonna provide, the trans temp started to taper off and not rise up with the coolant as much. So I'm kind of curious to see how it does when we're driving down the road and we're driving easy. And then after we drive easy and I record all that stuff, then I'm going to start, I don't want to say beat it, because then everyone gets mad that I beat it, but it's built to be abused. And if you don't abuse it, then when you do abuse it or someone does abuse it, it's going to break. So I abuse it and I break stuff, and then I fix it and then it doesn't break. So anyway, we're going to go out and then we're going to put some hard miles on it, and we're going to see if we can get that coolant hot, see if we can get the trans hot, and then see if it helps cool it down, and then see if I need to use the fan. It is 25 degrees, so this isn't gonna help too much with the summer. My plan is to also, with the coolant hoses, once I make the coolant hose kits to go with the pan, is I wanna do shut-off valves of some sorts in the lines. So if you need to pull your pan off, you can just flip the two shut-off valves, locks all your coolant in the engine. You'll lose a little bit out of the bottom of the pan, but you can pull your pan off, put your pan back on, then top the coolant off. And then also in the summertime, I can't test because it's winter here, obviously, it's 25 degrees. So I can't test in the summer to see what it does in the summer. So I don't want to sell this and then be like, oh yeah, it's great. And then it's great in the winter. This is what it's designed for, is to help people where it's cold and there's a lot of snow. And I don't want someone to get it and then have it come summertime, it gets really hot, and then that heat exchange, or that exchange of heat doesn't actually do enough, and it ends up causing the trans to run too hot. So I'm gonna put those two shut-off valves in there. So if that becomes the case, summertime, you just go down there, takes 2 seconds, flip the two valves, you're good to go. It's like you have a regular deep pan. So I'm also gonna do the math. Basically, as in do the math, I'm gonna figure out exactly how much this pan holds compared to factory. So you guys know that, because it is a deep pan as well, so it will take longer if your treads is gonna build heat by you doing burnouts or launches. It'll take longer for your trans temp to actually rise because there's more fluid to heat up. The same thing when it takes it to cool, but it does help it, the average temp stay cooler because it's harder for it to get hot. So without me, I'm trying to stop talking. I'm gonna stop talking here, and I'm gonna go do this stuff, and we're gonna see how it goes. So I'll see you guys shortly. What's going on, guys? We've been driving around here, probably about, actually, I started when I left, about 20 minutes now. Just driving it really, really easy, not getting on it at all. And our coolant temp's at 186 and our trans temp's at 155. So it's been doing good. The fan's off in the back there, just the cooler on there. So yeah, I'm gonna keep driving on this road. It's a really long straight road. I'll be in overdrive, locked up pretty much the whole time. So we will we'll see if it gets up, if it keeps climbing temp, because that's what it seems like it's been doing, is it keeps climbing temp. And yeah, we'll see how that does, and then after that we will start getting on it hard and see how she does. I do know that I've driven before with the heat exchanger bypass and the cooler in the back, and it my temp after driving like long for a while, you know, with all the wind blowing on the cooler, it brought my temps, oh my god, these lights, brought my temps way down to the point where my trans was not shifting worth a crap. So right now we're at 160 or 157, so it's looking really, really good. I like to see at least, like, perfect world, I'd love like 150, but 140-ish to 140, you know, it's great to drive. And then I'd say probably 160, 150 before you start really beating on it. So yeah, I think we're in the clear here. I just want to see if after a while, if it's going to get up to that 185, and then if it's going to give us issues trying to get too hot, if you know what I mean, once we start beating on it. So we will we'll see here shortly. We're just going to keep driving and keep cruising, and we'll report back here soon. So all right, guys, we just got off the highway there. We just rode for a little while, and basically what I saw was trans temp dropped down to 154. That was the lowest it would pull. I'm assuming that's all the obvious freezing cold air getting blown against it at 70 miles an hour. So yeah, it looks like it's definitely keeping it up. It's at 153 now, but it's definitely keeping it up. If I did this test without that on there, we would see really, really, really cold temperatures. Now, what a lot of guys are like, oh, I don't need that, I can get my trans up temp by driving it. It's like, yeah, if you take your or if you take it out when your trans is I don't know, 90 degrees, 80 degrees, and then you just start beating the shit out of it. When it's cold, it'll warm up. It'll definitely warm up. That's 100%, but you're also damaging your transmission by the fluid is not at the proper operating temperature. So it's not breaking down properly. It's not lubricating everything inside your trans properly. So that is one way to warm it up. But the one thing that you can't do is when you get on the highway and you're cruising, say you take a long trip, you're not going to be able to keep that trans warm unless you're constantly doing pulls up to 100 plus miles an hour, beating on it. That's the only way you're going to maintain a trans temp that's warm while you're on a long drive like that. Sure, if you're driving around town, you can beat on it and it will bring the temp up. It's not good though. Until the temp's warm, it's not good for it to be beating on it when it's cold, obviously. And then again, just on the highway, you're not going to be able to maintain the temp with all that cold air going on there, and there's not a big load on the transmission to build that heat. It's just not going to it's not going to maintain what you want. It's going to drop down to, from what I've seen in the past, around 100 degrees, and then my automatic valve body would not shift worth a crap. So we're going to take this out on some back roads over here, and then we're going to start giving it some abuse, and we're gonna see how hot we can get this trans without the fan on, and then see if this helps cool it down, or see how it does, you know? So I'm not sure how it's gonna do, because this is new product testing. And you guys know as much as I do, other than I've studied this stuff and designed this so that this works. So I'm hoping it works, but again, that's what this video is for, and that's what I'm doing out here, putting a lot of hours in testing these things, collecting data, and making sure you guys are getting the best product possible, not just trying to make a fancy looking transmission pan and sell it to you and it doesn't do anything. So we're gonna get back here and oh, that should be fun. Get some holes in and see if we can get this trans warm. Woo. Gotta love it. Gotta love it. I don't know, we're still at 158, but that heat just got made, so it's probably circling through the cooler. In a couple seconds here, we're gonna see it go up. So I'll get this thing hot, and then I'll report back and let you guys know what she's doing. Well, so far she doesn't really seem to be climbing up in temp. It's still at 155. So we're just gonna have to give it the sauce more and get this thing hot. Unless it's just that cold that the cooler in the back is getting enough cooling where it's just not going to heat up. And then on top of that, the coolant's taking some of the heat away. But I would think that the trans temp would definitely rise a little bit. But let me see if I can get her spinning here for you. Do some full drive launches, which I really don't like doing because that's where you break stuff, but it ain't really climbing them at all. I guess it's just the cooler in the back and all that, but at least she's staying right around 155 degrees. That's pretty decent. I like that. All right, well, I'm gonna keep driving and find some spots to do some bad things, and I will report back very shortly. Now watch out for your local Amish, all right? You don't want to spool right into one of those. They're everywhere. Yeah, we're still there. Oh, look at that. Freaking tow beast coming through. Watch out. Whew. Alright, boys, we're going to put her down in the 4 so we can keep some traction. Turn the knob there. There we go. Put the blinker on. Follow the walls. Yeah, it literally has not climbed at all. It's kind of aggravating me because it should climb. Like, I wasn't even making this with intentions that it would not climb, but... Holy f***! Sorry for the language. I'm telling you gotta be careful out here. That horse looks like it wants to hit me. What's up, boy? Yo, he likes it. Freaking likes it. Alright, come on, come on. Woo! Torque steer. There's ice and stuff out here. You gotta watch out for that too. Guys, I don't know what's going on. I guess our cooler in the back is too good, so yeah, we'll do a launch. I can't really do a launch because I can't video it because I have to hold the wheel because it gets a little... Oh shit, we hit 160. Jeez. Woo. This is what I'm talking about, maintaining consistent temps. We are like within 5 degrees and we've been beating the crap out of it. That's good. That's really good. I was kind of hoping it would, like, well, I wasn't really hoping, but I was figuring that it would be a little hotter. Like, I thought it would get up to the coolant temp eventually after beating it up, which I'm sure it will, just not beating it hard enough, I guess. So let me find another spot to do something, and we'll get back to you. All right, I'm gonna try to spool it up because that's where we'll make the most heat. Like we're gonna do a run, and I'm just gonna have to let off because this torque steer is gonna, like, I need hands on the wheel or else I'll die. So spool her up. Oh, look at that spool, man. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. It's really hard to shift and hold the wheel when you're in full drive while doing a launch, but I guess we're gonna have to spool it up longer, because if you're thinking like guys with big singles, they don't spool near that fast at all, like not even close. Like this thing is just like that. So let me try to just, I guess I'll hold it a little bit longer and try to engage heat into the transmission. We're right there, 162 was the hottest we have gotten there. I'll pull up right here. Yeah. Alright, here we go. I'm gonna freaking... She's spooled. Pretend like we're on the staging line here, and I don't really actually know how to race. I'm just gonna stand here, alright, and then we'll hit that handle. There's ice. There's a lot of snow and ice. All right, I don't know what you guys want me to do, but oh, okay, we hit 175, so we'll give it a couple seconds. The fluid's probably doing whatever it does, and it's probably hot as hell coming out, going through the cooler, coming back. Because the fan is off. I can't really show you the fan, but the fan's off. All right, 174. We'll see if it climbs up. Okay, now it's already going back down. All right, now I'll drive it kind of regularly and see if we drop back down to like 150. Yeah, I'm sorry I'm not as professional with YouTube videos as a company could be, but you guys are at least seeing behind the scenes of. I'm a little odd, but I mean I just kind of like to go fast and stuff, but it may not be as professional as sitting down and talking about it and telling you what I did, but at least you guys can see what I did, and you're seeing the real deal. Like, obviously I have been videoing this, so you're seeing the real deal here. I'm not just saying we did this and this and that. You guys are seeing it. You are here, not really with me, but you're kind of with me if you're watching it. And this is where we're at with what we got on here. So I'm going to keep driving it here. We're at 97,117 miles. So I'll drive it for a little bit and then see what the trans wants to do. See if it goes back down or stays there or what it does. So I think honestly with the poles we did and the rolling burnouts and the 2 launches, I think this trans, I think it should be hotter. It definitely should be hotter. Because before I had this pan on here, it was cold outside. I was doing a lot of burnouts in one of our last videos, and I had to turn the fan on because it started getting up there in the 180, 190 range. So I turned the fan on, but I just did like those full drive launches where your foot's on the pedal there and you're holding it down. That builds a lot of heat. Like, that is where your heat is going to come from when you do a pull on the track or something. Like, that is where the bulk of it's coming from. And it just doesn't seem to like, with the fan off normally, even with this temperature, it should be way hotter. So I think the pan is actually doing a good bit of cooling as well. We just bounced up, we're like bouncing up around 183 here. Coolant temp's actually a little bit lower, so maybe we got her hot. Yeah, wake up, come on. We got her a little bit warm from those poles. Oh, there's a church there. I don't want to hit that. We got her a little warm from the pole. So we'll see if she keeps climbing. Sometimes it takes a little bit of time for the fluid to get out of the torque converter, go up through the cooler, and then come back down. That's why you won't see it, obviously, like immediate temp increase. But yeah, we're at like 185 now, so it's coming. So we'll keep watching this, and I'm gonna drive kind of regularly now with the fan off still. The fan has not been on this whole ride at all. I'm gonna drive kind of regularly and then see if it kind of stays up with the coolant temp, or see if it gets cooler and goes back down around 155 range. I think it will, because the cooler is in the bed, and it is really cold out here. Like, hold on, I shouldn't be doing this, but oh, it's up to 30 degrees now, so it's definitely pretty chilly. If you think about the wind chill back there, if you've ever ridden the bed of a truck in the middle of winter, you know what I mean. We're at 179 now, so I'm gonna keep driving. I don't want the GoPro to die, but I'm gonna probably start heading back to the shop, and we will let you know what exactly the transom. If it looks like it's going back down to 155 or that area, I'll let you know. If it kind of stays here, then I'll also let you know. So you guys will see another clip here in a minute. All right, guys. I think it was 97,117 last time I talked to you. It's at 20. Oh, just turned 28. But we're at 168, 169 degrees. So it looks like it's going down very slowly, but it's kind of maintaining right up there. So I'm going to, we got another 20 minutes to shop, and it's all about 70 miles an hour. On this will turn right into a highway here in a couple hundred yards, but I'll drive regular down all the way back, and then once I get back to the shop, I'll let you guys know what the temps are at, and if it ended up dropping back down to 155 area where it kind of liked to be before, or if it's going to kind of stay up near the coolant temp. So we'll report back soon, guys. All right, guys, we've gone, let me do the math, 6 miles cruising out here. I've actually been kind of doing the speed limit today, so I've been on like 60, still a little over, but it's fine. And we were back down to 157, right where we kind of were before. It's that sweet spot, it seems, with all the elements that go into this, the truck, the coolant temperature, the cooler in the back, the pan, the outside temp, the speed. It seems like 155 to 160 looks to be the sweet spot for where this temp likes to sit in this weather. So I think these results are perfect. I think this product is going to be released probably tonight. Not tonight, but very, very soon. So yeah, I'll see you guys back at the shop. We are pulling back up to the shop. Got on it a few times, a little bit on the way back here. 167. Seems like, obviously, I mean, it makes sense. The slower I'm going, the hotter the trans temp gets, because it's trying to get up to that coolant temp. Hold on a second here. It's trying to get up to that coolant temp, and when it's going. But when you're going slow and it's cold, what am I saying? When you're going slow and it's cold, and the cooler's not getting as much airflow as it would, obviously, when it's going fast. So I'm gonna put this in neutral, so everything's flowing, and see if it gets up to that coolant temp and stays there. I'm just curious for one last little thing here. But I'm sure this thing is dirty, very dirty. I don't even want to look at it. Oh. Feels back here. Oh yeah, he's warm. Disgusting. Covered in salt. I detail it now today. Absolutely disgusting. Could be worse though. Could be worse. Oh yeah. Yeah, 176, 179. Yeah, I want to leave this thing in neutral for a couple minutes and see if it goes over that coolant temp, and see what it does. That's pretty neat. All right, guys, we've been sitting here. I swept and cleaned up some tools. We've been sitting here for probably about 5-10 minutes, and it looks like we're basically staying right at the coolant temp. We're not really building any extra heat with the trans. It is in neutral, so everything's circulating through the cooler, but there's no airflow in the cooler, so it's kind of stagnant. So it looks like we're just sitting right at the coolant temp. So that's awesome. You start driving, you get that airflow in there. I can flip this fan on. Oh yeah, that feels good. It's freezing in here, so I'm about to go stand in front of that. Actually, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna stand here for a minute and let this cooler cool down and see what it'll pull that trans temp to. See if it'll pull it down all the ways. And yeah. All right, guys, we just let it run for a little bit. Now my warm air is not so warm. It's cold now, but we dropped her down to 164. Coolant temp's 185. So you see, with the proper cooler paired with this, it'll do really well. I think it'll do just as fine with the front mounted cooler, because you're getting your air from your fan spinning. So overall, I think this thing's awesome. It did just as I wanted it to, really. It's extremely consistent, and the main thing is it helps get your temps up, and it won't fail like the factory one will. That's guaranteed. It will not fail. I wouldn't be making this because the factory heat exchanger works good. I wouldn't be making this if the factory heat exchanger could stay together and not fail and mix your transmission fluid and your coolant together. So that's really the main goal for this, and I just wanted to test it and get all the specs, see how it does. And if you look at the cost of a fancy transmission pan and a heat exchanger, you're looking at about the cost of this pan here. It's 2-in-1, so it's really not too bad, and no one makes a heat exchanger that doesn't fail except for us now. So yeah, you can put a stock one back on and it couldn't fail eventually. So we're going to shut the truck down for the day. I'm gonna go edit all these videos together in these clips and try to cut out any dumb, annoying stuff you guys don't want to see. And yeah, stay tuned for the release, guys.